All right. Well, we are live. So I'm super excited because we're live. We're going to be talking about basically what to do with all this information we're getting from the PPC Mastery Summit Q4 edition. So those of you who are watching the replay, welcome back. For those of you who are watching live, we are super glad you are here. So I'm joined by Ryan Kramer here from PingPong Payments, and he's going to tell a little bit about what he does here in a moment, and stick around, hopefully, to chat about kind of just some things to think about. And so what I'm going to be doing here also, just point out that I am not on regular internet. I'm on my phone internet. So if I go out, I apologize. I am literally on my phone, but that's what happens in business. Sometimes things go outside of our control. We still have to kind of roll with the punches. Am I right, Ryan?
That's all right. No, that's a funny thing too, is just like you on podcast when I do live, I've had internet go out completely in the midst of it all, but somehow people just kind of go with it and they expect it. So it's kind of an unforeseen thing. It's like utilities, right? You don't know when it's going to happen. If it happens, you kind of just have to figure it out. But
Right,
rolling with the
exactly.
punches is the best way to put it.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to run with those punches and just kind of figure it out, because that's life, and life happens. So we have to just kind of figure it out. So, all right, so let's get into this. So, for those of you who are joining us, whether you're watching this in the replay or you're watching live, let us know, where are you at in the world, and we'll get started here. So we are live in the Facebook group. We're live on LinkedIn, which is a new thing. And we're also live on YouTube. So, all right, so let's get into this. So, Ryan, tell me a little bit, where are you located? Are you
Yeah, I was
are you
going to
in
say I'll start.
California? Yeah, where are you
I'm
located?
not. So I'm unlike, I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs or tech people, I should say. I'm in Indiana. I'm in the middle
Mm,
of the country. So if you're internationally, I'll draw a big map. So if you go East Coast is basically the coast, West Coast.
mhm.
You just kind of point to the middle. That's kind of where I'm at. So of the country, but I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana. I've been here since 2014. I've worked for a couple different crazy companies here. The Indiana Pacers and Fever work for Viral Launch. If you're familiar with the software solution like a
Mhm.
Helium 10, a seller's tool, uh, Jungle Scout, things like that. And now I'm with PingPong. So I've been fortunate enough to work remotely, as we all have. Most entrepreneurs nowadays are, and that's where I'm at. So it's fun to represent a global company from Indiana. It's kind of a unique twist on where we are in the world today with technology, and you connect with people all over the world, and it's really cool to get to meet new people, but it's all done through a screen nowadays, and hopefully soon I'll get to meet people in person.
Yeah, exactly. So, speaking of meeting people in person, if I believe Ping Pong is a sponsor of an event in Miami here in a couple weeks. Am I right about that, or
We
am I
are.
wrong?
Yeah. Right. So this is the fun thing what I get to do is the more I'm sure like this, Kevin, people ask you all the time of, hey, can you
Mm-hmm.
speak at things or can you sponsor things?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times it's great content that people want to do. Now, not every sponsorship is equal, right?
Mm-hmm.
More eyeballs. Those are kind of the things we want to do. We want to support great content, uh, help people understand e-commerce and how we can help people, but obviously just education in general. And I think that's why it's really cool with your summits and your events, right? You're educating people. People are sharing their information
Mm-hmm.
for very little in terms of that capability. But the event itself is the Amazon Powwow in Miami. And I want to say
Mm-hmm.
it's November 2nd. We have a
Correct.
seller's dinner too on the 1st that we're also
Ah.
sponsoring. So there's two things going on. So if you're in Miami around that time frame, go ahead. You can actually message me. We actually have some invites to this dinner if you're interested, and then also to the event itself. Have some free tickets as well. So if you're interested in the area, you can message me or connect with me as well.
Yes. So for those who are unfamiliar, this is a post I think it's been updated. They added a Leron Hirschkorn, but if you want to
They're
hang
like
out with
adding
some of the
surprise
folks,
people. Look at that.
yes. So they added some surprise people. So I'll be speaking at that. Stephen Pope, who's the speaker at this summit, will be speaking there. Ritu Java will be speaking there. Liren Hirschkorn, who's the question mark, he's been added since that was posted. And also alumni speakers of some of the events we've hosted, including Emma Shermer-Tamir, Amy Weiss, and Brian Johnson. They're all going to be speaking there. A lot of great people there. So definitely check that out.
It's
And
a lot of good PPC content, brain power in the one room.
there really is. There's a lot of, listing optimization stuff. And I will be speaking about selling internationally. So for those who are in the Miami area, feel free email either of us and maybe we can get you tickets. Although I can just get you a ticket to this potentially. However,
Right.
it sounds like Ryan might be able to get people a ticket to that and something else the night before. So that sounds super exciting.
There's the ecom co-op is what we're a part of. So it's a bunch of service providers and sellers who are just trying to no, that's okay. You're just trying to, yeah, exactly. We're trying to just cultivate great people. If you know people in the industry, or if you're still learning in this process, my job, what I love to do is point people in the right direction. So we actually joined this cooperative with other great service providers in the space. Obviously we don't make any money off it, but we were just trying to point people, if you're having trouble with PPC or if imaging or things like that, just trying to help people, just big knowledge base, if you will. So it's a dinner. I forget what it's one of the bigger, more popular restaurants down there in Miami. And we do have tickets for that. It's the night before the summit. So if you're in early, you're looking for an opportunity, hit us up.
Yeah, definitely. And I will be driving down there the day of because I'm only like an hour and a half away. Well, depending on traffic.
There you go.
South Florida traffic can be brutal because there's really just two main arteries, so to speak, with I-95 and Florida Turnpike. So some people are like, what on earth are you guys talking about? But either way, check us out. And we're giving shout out to another event. I'm just a speaker and you're a sponsor. The PingPong is a sponsor. So tell us a little bit about PingPong. So what is it that PingPong does? And what does Ryan do there?
What do I do? So if you hear a woofing dog in the background, my dog is dreaming right next to my office. I thought it would be a good idea to bring her in here. She's sleeping, but she's also dreaming. So if you're woofing,
I heard that. Yeah.
Nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. It's just me. So Paris. All right. Anyways, now she woke up. I just have to shout her and shake her awake. Anyways, if you haven't seen me, I know Kevin and I have been on a couple different things together, but my name is Ryan Kramer. I'm the partnerships marketing manager here at PingPong Payments. First and foremost, what I do is I try to get the name of PingPong out there, somewhat of a brand ambassador, allowing people to understand like what we do as a service, and then also connecting with great people like yourself to figure out, hey, how can PingPong help better serve you, but also just providing a great knowledge base in terms of if there's other issues that you might be having. That's what I see as partnerships, and at PingPong we see as partnerships is helping people grow instead of, hey, it's a service that we're providing, give us your money, and then we'll walk away and never talk to you again. I like the concept of growing with people and helping people succeed, and that's what I'm all about, and that's what PingPong is. But what we do is we're a global payment service provider, participant. Obviously, you might have heard that phrase come out with Amazon recently with their partnership network of, hey, we are only going to pay you remittance and your earnings to these sort of participants, right?
If it's not service providers, is that the term? Okay.
Yeah, it's payment service provider network. So yeah, exactly. So I wish it was preferred. Yeah, payment service provider network. So you have to have all these different regulations. Basically, Amazon sees as compliant, and we're a participant in that program. So they give us a thumbs up to work with them. But also what we do, so we help people save money when they receive different kinds of currencies from around the world. So if I'm selling in Canada or Mexico or Australia or Singapore, or wherever it might be around the world, I don't have use for all those currencies here in the United States or wherever you might be located. So we help convert those funds at a low effective rate, other than like international wire or having Amazon do that. We actually effectively get your money safely and securely, and can help receive up to 11 different currencies, and you can send it to your supplier, your manufacturer, your VAs, your employees all around the world. Basically, a big ERP or a payment service solution to help send money internationally and receive it internationally, and save money while doing so instead of paying those crazy fees with your localized bank or anything like that. So that's what we do, and it's really fun to save money. People have headaches when they're trying to put it towards something crazy like shipping costs or logistics or PPC costs as everything else continues to rise. We try to take some of those savings and you can put it towards those increasing costs, and that's what we do.
Yeah. So wherever you can shave off a little bit here and maybe spend it somewhere else where shipping costs are on the rise, PPC costs are on the rise. And someone had mentioned in the Facebook group in a comment, it seems like it's just this battle to get to the top spot. And my response to that was I could sense the frustration in their comment. And my response there was basically, but is the top spot the right place to be? Sometimes we talk about like it's this competition to get to the top, to get the most top line sales, but really it's a competition with yourself to get the most bottom line profit. So what are
Right.
you seeing and hearing from folks when it comes to things like PPC and all the other stuff out there?
Yeah, good question. That we allude to, it's getting more expensive, but people are getting more tactical in terms of what they're trying
Mm.
to target, right? There's a lot of data that maybe on the summit that was represented in terms of conversions, where you are on the page actually matters on the conversion rate of
Hmm.
what people are probably going to go to. So Amazon used to be almost entirely organic placements. These people wanted to like rank to the top, and you could do that organically. Now, in terms of where people are making their conversions versus where they're making it, where it is on the page, those placements in terms of the top, I think 7 spots are all entirely paid placements. So it's more important now more than ever to be able to understand. You have to somewhat. I hate the phrase, but you have to say it, pay to play and
Hmm.
be invisible in that regards. There's still trust factors. Some people don't like clicking on ads. A lot of people don't even see that. It's like Google in its old days where it used to highlight it in yellow. Now it's sort of more
Mm.
organic. It's more people can consume a little bit better. But it's anything from display ads to sponsored display ads to even video content. So that's lots of different ways to stand out to the consumer, and then
Hmm.
targeting those more not broad matches, but almost those long tail keywords in order to stand out and kind of win those. Maybe it's not the most going to get you the most sales, but those are easy wins, right? And those are how people are continuing to be successful on Amazon. So that's what I'm seeing. Just cost to play and do business, but then also how are you driving traffic to Amazon in general, right? Um, Doing it in the fact of whether it's maybe not through Facebook anymore, and Amazon doesn't reward as much Facebook traffic. Maybe it's done through Google Display Ads, or maybe it's done through DSP now, or other sorts of traffic like Pinterest. There's lots of cool ways that you can start driving traffic now through editorials and all this other content and drive it to your listing, and those kinds of things. But we're talking about PPC, so those are kinds of the strategies I'm seeing evolve over time uh, in my world.
Cool. Yeah. And just a little quick little housekeeping note. If anyone hears loud noises in the background, instead of a dog, I have apparent landscapers outside. So,
This is the beauty of
so,
working at home.
so I don't know if my microphone is picking it up, but I think there's a blower outside. So if they get real close, we'll definitely hear it. So, but anyway, all right. So let's talk about, kind of what to do when costs are rising. And I know a lot of times people want these kind of, black and white answers, do this, do that. The problem with if you say, here's the exact things you should do, and everyone goes out and does those exact things, then it's all this competition to the same strategies. So sometimes you just got to take a step back. And as Chris Schaefer, my friend, who's one of the speakers on the summit, likes to say, it depends. And you really have to look at your business. And so, one of the complaints, I don't know if this is a complaint, but one of the comments I get from folks sometimes after summits like this is that they watched all this great content, and then there's different speakers who are sometimes conflicting with each other. So one says do this, one says do that. Well, sometimes they just have different goals in mind. So sometimes you got to look at what are your goals and what is the market you're in. So someone like Mina Elias, who has a supplement where he wants people to come back and order it over and over again, and that is buyer behavior for his type of product. Or someone like, Travis Ziegler, who has a dry eye, we'll just call it eye drops. I'm probably butchering his product and the value of it, but he basically has a special eye drop. And so depending on what it is you are selling and you want people to come back, if you have a consumable, you can lose a little bit of money. Or if you're, let's say in apparel and you're competing against like Under Armour and Adidas, you're going to have a different strategy than someone who's got a non-consumable product. And so some of it is know your product, know the history of where things are. So like right now, as we are recording this, it is October 2021. So we're in Q4. But one of the things I've noticed, at least with my products seem to be very giftable. So right now, my sales start to go up, but also my PPC tends to creep up. But I think some of that is I've found from history, there's a lot of window shoppers this time of year. They start looking around. What do I want to get little Johnny, whatever. I mean, there's people that will spend months trying to figure out what 4 gifts do they buy, for, a particular person, because they're really thinking about it. So they're clicking on a lot of things. Some of those are organic listings. Some of them are ads. So that might be the case with your products if you're going up. So one of the things to ask yourself is, do you want to get into a award for top of page search right now, when if you have the inventory and you could be making more profitable sales and even charge more during the holiday season? Would you rather do that, or would you rather run out on December 1st and miss the boat, so to speak, when some of your competitors are going to run out because they're too focused on, staying on top of page and doing all these giveaways to be on page 1 or whatever the case? Does that make sense what I'm saying, or am I rambling a little bit?
No, that makes sense. And I think that's the ultimate game, right? Like all of a sudden logistics comes into the play. And I hear many brand owners that say, hey, we have to even pull back on our PPC because we're going to sell through before the end of Q4. And I think that's the ultimate black sin, right? Is if you run out of inventory, literally everything goes to zero. And so how do you mitigate that risk instead of pouring more money back into your listing in the middle of Q4 and trying to get visibility into that? Amazon is just going to torpedo your listing and put it to the bottom because, I mean, there's science behind it and almost data that you have to kind of draw lines together. Is inventory is the number one key factor in Amazon. They want it to be available for everyone who is searching for those relevant key terms, right? That's the basis of their algorithm. Hey, is that inventory going to be around that person who's searching for that product? And are they going to be enough? We're going to elevate that organically as well. And then they're also going to make it, visible for their PPC campaigns as well. So lots of those kinds of things you have to really consider is if I run out of stock ultimately, and again, this is going more logistics. If I run out of inventory, it doesn't matter how great my PPC campaign is. Ultimately, I can't drive traffic to something that literally cannot be sold. So ultimately, a lot of people are actually tampering down and tuning it down. But there's also another interesting thing across the board is driving traffic to your listings, or if it's off Amazon, your direct-to-consumer website, is across the board. You're going to see money over retail, other e-commerce players. You're going to be spending lots of money in media this Q4 trying to get the consumer to their website. You can't really rely on Amazon as much anymore to just do that kind of for you. It's not, hey, I'm going to find lots of different deals and products to be sold just because across the way everyone's having these same issues in terms of inventory logistics. So they're trying to get people through the door and say, hey, buy from us, not from maybe Amazon or something like that. So it's even going to be a longer window shopping period, if you will, it's already now. Amazon, you go to Amazon.com today, there's Christmas backgrounds on literally everything right now on their displays, their carousel, and it's literally triggering every single consumer. Maybe I should start thinking about Christmas right now. Of
Mhm.
and it's fall, and we haven't even hit October, or excuse me, we haven't even hit or not Thanksgiving, even Halloween. So all these things, it kind of stretches it out. And that was kind of my forecast is you're going to see this prolonged Q4 shopping period. A lot of people starting earlier. So do it now and really start to garner that goodwill with Amazon so that when you do get to those prime shopping times of the year, Amazon's going to reward that kind of context as well.
Yeah, exactly. So here's where it gets kind of crazy is there's both an art and a science to PPC. Like sometimes everybody talks about the science of it because there's spreadsheets and reports and graphs and ratios and this and that and these metrics. So there's a lot of science to it. But at the end of the day, what we always have to remember is there's humans. Someone is imagine yourself, going around Amazon clicking and I you got to remember that people are making decisions on what to buy, and so I always like to keep that in the back of my mind. um, and then to the going back to the art and science of it, there's so much to look at. Let's talk about the science now of it. And sometimes managing the science can be a little bit of an art. And so one of the analogies I think works is if you think about like an airline pilot. They're flying this big, massive plane, and they've got so many things to look at. Well, there's a case study. I think it's from like the 70s or 80s. There was a flight that crashed because this plane had like three pilots in the cockpit, and they were all fixated on one little light that was out. It was either the light was out or it wasn't working correctly or something, and they're spending all their time focusing on this one little metric. Well, it's not a metric, but this one thing out of all the things. And they lost sight of the fact they're losing altitude. And so when they realized it was too late and they crashed. And it's been I found every now and then I get into like pilot videos and there's, because they had the cockpit recorder, they were able to kind of reenact this.
Right.
And so um, PPC can sometimes be like that. We focus sometimes on what metrics really matter. And sometimes we look just at top line sales and just at ACOS or just at tacos. There's a variety of things to look at. But I think for anyone who hasn't seen Mina Elias's talk, he gave a great session where one of the things he talked about was creating a dashboard. I love this. And one of the things he showed was basically a case study of kind of a before and after, where he was able to increase sales and increase, PPC spend. So the sales went up pretty dramatically, but so did PPC spend. And at the end, if you compare the two time periods, there's only about a $200 bottom line difference. So spending all this money on PPC really only generated another $200 at the bottom line. And they're also having to reorder more. So going back to the whole thing about keep in mind inventory, you don't want to, like you said, the cardinal sin is running out of inventory. And not that Amazon's going to necessarily punish you for it, but your bank will punish it for you. Or if you're doing international payments, you'll have less euros and pounds and Canadian dollars in your PingPong account.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing, right? I, it sounds so simple, but I think a lot of people are starting to come back to it. Is ultimately you got in business to be profitable, and
Exactly.
if something's not profitable and it doesn't make monetary sense, and I'm going to tie this to money. If
Mm-hmm.
you're in business and you're selling goods and you haven't calculated what it's going to take to be competitive again, what are your goals? What do you want to ultimately? What do you want to sell per month? And then work
Mm-hmm.
backwards from there. Is it going to be a product that's going to get you? How many are you going to have to sell? Is it even competitive in that regards? And then ultimately in the advertising that you're going to have to spend to stand out with these products, is it worth it? So ultimately, is the margins going to get you to where you need to be? And doing that simple math again, we talk about math of the sixth grader or the
Mm-hmm.
fifth grader or whatever it was on our
Oh yeah,
podcast.
yeah, yeah. The
Just
sixth
make
grade level
just
math. Yeah.
exactly making math work for you in terms of a business owner. And I'm afraid that a lot of people are trying to get into um, e-commerce when they don't have the capital or the finances to kind of back that play in order to scale, but also they don't have a product that's selling for $20, selling for $25 online. You can make it for 5, but your PPC spend is like 10, shipping is another 5.
Mm.
all of a sudden you're at $20 and your margins maybe $5. That's before, other extraneous fees and whatnot. So there's a lot of different people in business that are selling products, and no matter what you do, it's just going to be a net negative, if that makes sense. So it's really hard to kind of like reset yourself, go back to the drawing board and say, this is what ultimately I have to do. Like Mina said, why would I spend all that more money when there's all these other negatives that maybe potentially can harm my business instead of
Hmm.
earning 200 more dollars? I don't think anyone would want to do that.
Right, exactly. And well, maybe somebody who's just starting out, $200 to the bottom line could be really impactful. Someone who's,
Sure.
doing big sales, that might hurt their cash flow because they're having to buy more inventory, and
Sure.
pay for these ads and things like that. So that's something to kind of keep in mind, depending on, your situation. You have to look at things holistically. But one of the things I want to give a little bit of the crystal ball, and looking into the future is a bit of a fool's errand. So feel free to jump in here and tell me if you see things a little bit differently. But we're in kind of a weird time. There's the issues a lot of people have been facing with shipping containers. um, I did read somewhere that like prices are starting to go down on shipping containers.
That's
I
correct.
will I will say this: I have not been affected all that much on my sea shipping. Now, I tend to go with my Chinese suppliers,
Mhm.
and I've not had problems. So ask for quotes, ask for shop around. Shop around. Pam from RPC Logistics, one of our sponsors. Shop with her. Shop with someone else. Shop with someone else. You know, look at a variety of factors. That you're comfortable with, whether it's service, price, reliability. Add everything up and figure out what's the best plan of action for you. Um, and then PPC costs are going up just because I think a lot of brands are now starting to realize, like, let's spend more money and time here. Now, one of the things that is starting to happen, I think, with when you start getting more big brands coming into Amazon saying, we want to just look at branding. So I think depending on your niche, some are completely immune to this, some aren't. But if you're looking at your niche and you're competing up against some big brands who have a mentality of impressions, like, for years, Procter and
The old
Gamble, for
CPC
example.
way, right?
Exactly, exactly. It wasn't even about clicks or sales. It was really about like
How many
people
impressions do I
eyeballs.
get? Yeah.
Exactly, because think about it, the old world, newspaper ads, there's no attribution on it unless, like, there's like a special coupon code or ask us about such
Yeah,
and
you
such.
go on. I worked in the newspaper industry, and all we would talk about was distribution of our
Mhm.
physical products. So how many eyeballs would receive it, or if you were doing display ads, it is truly that. How many times does your ad get displayed per view of a page? And that value was just, oh, I understand. It's like a billboard. It's like a passing, like one person driving by. I'm going to see it. Whether they click on it, that's a different metric. So, but we were always selling on impressions and how many times it was going to get displayed. 10,000 impressions, 100,000, and then you would compare it to how often you were, how many visits per month, and you can kind of do, oh, 25% of the time they're going to see my ad, something like that.
Exactly, exactly. And so right now I think there's a lot of just get the eyeballs. The old newspapers were selling the eyeballs, but big companies were going in there and just wanting to get eyeballs. And I think and many were successful. That old Mad Men, uh, you know, kind of way of looking at things of, get the eyeballs, mass market products. And that did well for a long time. But I think if you try to apply that to Amazon, it's not going to work. And having worked at two large Fortune 500 companies, I can tell you, if you work for a big company, there's not a lot of risk that you really can take. And you really just kind of have to go with the flow of whatever they're telling you. So if they're saying we need more eyeballs on Amazon because that's the future, then everyone's going to do that. But eventually things shift from time to time. And some bean counter somewhere, some accountant is going to say, wait, we're losing money on Amazon. This is crazy. So the worry about more impressions will start to shift towards conversions and things of that nature. Um, and I think we'll start to see some equalization there of that money Then another side of the equation, there is a year ago, if you said aggregator, I would say, what does that mean? Now it's like the hot buzzword that there's all these aggregators, and there's some really good ones, but all of a sudden there's like 80 aggregators, and they're all competing to buy these brands, and they have all this money, and they kind of got to establish themselves. So they're not just, you know, coming in and buying, but they also have to operate it too. So a lot of them are trying to figure out the operations. So they're figuring out their operations. I think we're going to see, if you think back to 99, 2000 with the dot-com bubble, you know, some of them will become, you know, the Amazons and the Googles that stick around and are successful. And some of them will become pets.com and GovWorks, which are kind of like the case studies from the dot-com era of companies that were promising but didn't deliver.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say, or the one in recent memory with Walmart purchasing, I think it's Jet.com. You say that now with a lot of people, and they're like, "Who's Jet.com?" Yeah, that's a $2 billion mistake by Walmart.
right.
Like
So they went
those
in
are things.
to try to figure out online. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, listening to what you're saying, I have all these different similar thoughts around my mind too. And you said 80, and I'm gonna go to the aggregator one because it's one of my favorite topics to talk on. It sounds like such a disgusting word now because when you say aggregator, it has a negative connotation. I always like to say brand builders, or if you like them, you say, oh, you're brand growth or your growth experts or something like that. If you're
right,
I say negative connotation, you're like, oh, you're the people who have bags of money in the back of your truck,
yeah.
and you're like, how much for that bike, kid,
Ryan, real quick,
like
I'm sorry,
that.
I'm
And then
getting a little
yeah.
static on your when you're talking.
Oh, on
Where's your microphone?
My microphone's right in front of me, but if you can't hear me, there
No,
also
I can
might
hear
be
you, but there's also a little bit of
there is a lawnmower outside, so I'm gonna get a little bit closer to my mic. Again, right, work at landscaping and whatnot. But let me.
Well, it's
let me
like a
talk
kind of a little bit
closer.
of a reverberation when you're talking. I'm picking
Here,
it
I
up. I
just
don't know if
muted
anyone
myself,
else
and
is.
then yeah, if you can't, I can switch it over, but it's my external one right in front of me. But I'll try to talk a little bit slower or anything like that. So
It's not
in
the
terms
slow,
of,
it's whenever you're talking. Try a different microphone if you don't mind, real quick. I'm
let
sorry.
me try. Yeah, no, you're fine. No problem. Let me flip over to this one.
All right. So sorry guys, this is live. This is what happens when we are live.
Live and what? Yeah, exactly. Can you hear this one a little bit better, or is that worse?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not doing that reverberation thing. So,
Okay.
so that's good.
So in terms of the aggregator space, I think,
Mhm.
like I said, like brand builders. So 80 is just public. And I'm going to say this 80 is just the public amount of people that have announced that they have financial
Right.
backing. That's wave one. And that's not the scary thing. That's the exciting thing I'm going to say in e-commerce is this is just a ripple of what you're going to see as continuations of what brands, like you alluded to, big companies are trying to come on to Amazon. They're trying to build more of an e-commerce focus. E-commerce in general is still in its infancy, and so is Amazon. So you have a lot of people trying to figure out who's been successful. You have wave one of you can literally throw any product on Amazon, then you're making sales, and you see those people kind of the old way, the Wild West days, right? But
Mhm.
technology starts to evolve. See people having to go through overcome all these different adversities, logistics problems, nightmares, different PPC strategies, trying to grow brands. Me too. People hacking your listings. That never used to happen. Now it's just like where do I like swivel my head to today? And is there a problem? I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have a heart attack or just have this ulcer in my stomach forever. Uh, but what a lot of people are kind of looking at this brand builder, I think it's a fascinating case study that people are going to have to keep an eye on. Are these people that just learned about Amazon and they think, oh, money will fix a problem if we can just absorb
Mm.
those brands? We can figure it out along the way, right? But that's not the case. Not let's say case in point. A lot of companies they don't have a logistics background. You're running into the same exact problems that any sort of person on Amazon is experiencing nowadays. You have shipping delays, you have logistics nightmares, you have costs going up, PPC costs continue to go up. it's not agnostic. It's agnostic. It doesn't just apply to small, medium-sized businesses. This is literally everyone in the space. You're playing by the same rules theoretically. So they have those kinds of problems to do, but they're taking what you're doing already that's being successful and trying to even grow it further than what they can do. So in theory, the ways to do that are logistics and supply chain, or put it in different marketplaces and kind of expand and grow or rebrand. So there's a couple different ways you can grow an already
Mm-hmm.
successful company or brand on Amazon. But people, they're running into these problems of, I can do that. Oh, that's great. I can do that for this one brand. Okay, what if you have to do that same processes, different category, different kind of supply chain, different kind of marketing for 100 different brands? Then you start to think about, oh crap, how do I repeat this process over and over again, make it streamlined, be profitable, and then try to grow it from there? That's tough. That's a long process that people just can't turn around nowadays, and they can't make it happen in a month or two. That's just not feasible. So when you say aggregators in the space, I think a lot of them are seeing that we have to have teams in place, not just for Amazon. We have to have multiple teams for logistics in any sort of category that we might absorb. We have to have a team marketing team in place for every brand that we are going to absorb as well, which is great. And you can do that. But then you start to go into the inexperienced route of, okay, this person was successful with this brand because they lived it for 3 or 4 years. Well, Joe Schmo from XYZ may not know anything about the pet category or home and garden or know how to grow that. And they're just somebody who's going to run your brand. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's just there's an inexperience that can maybe come a part of it as well. And so that's what some people are having issues with, like the growth rate of how often do I need to be in stock? Do what can I bring to the marketing table? Do I have access to those loyalties? Do we have a direct to consumer play in place? Are we going to go the wholesale route? All those things take teams and masses of people. And if you're doing it yourself, that just like time equity, you can't regurgitate and acquire it. Does that make sense? So I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
fascinating case study that some brands are kind of taking their time, or aggregators are taking their time. They're like, let's be strategic about this,
Mm-hmm.
acquire businesses, figure out where we want to make our next step, more of that approach instead of the, we'll literally buy anything you can sell us, send it our way, and we'll tell you how much money you can make. So I think that there's a shift of the model. Does that make sense? And you're finding
Yeah.
more strategic approaches instead of, oh, you're a number one seller in pillows. That's fantastic. We want it, but you may not be able to optimize it any further. Like there's no wiggle room. Like you're just maintaining that sales.
Yeah,
If that makes
there's
sense.
a lot of forces involved here. And so going back to economics, and is Adam Smith, who's, what was that, like the 1700s, talked about the invisible hand. So there's an invisible hand of economics of, if containers are more expensive than really what the market can bear, maybe that's a short-term thing, but eventually it will have to even itself out. Might be
Mhm.
kind of ugly in the short term. Same thing with what we talked about, big brands coming in and doing PPC, or now there's these aggregators that have money. Well, they're having to be strategic because now they're the operators. So it's, they're given money and they go out and buy businesses. Now they have to figure it out. And so eventually, if they want to do an IPO, I was talking to somebody from an aggregator the other day and they want to do an IPO eventually. Well, they got to have a profitable portfolio. And so some of them, to your point, maybe we're saying step back and maybe we don't spend all the money on certain things we're spending on. So I think that will also drive some of the margins to be more creative. But, to your point about, not everyone's going to look at your business the same way. So like, someone who's an employee of a company who they're going to get the same paycheck either way, maybe get a bonus or something. Whereas you're looking at this as kind of your back's up against the wall, like a lot of entrepreneurs do. So if you're feeling like your back is up against the wall with your business, you're going to see things with different eyes, and you can find strategic advantages where someone else might not, because you are looking so deep into some of the minutia, which can sometimes be an issue, but you're going to find things that others wouldn't find. And so, yes, maybe there's some economies of scale an aggregator has that, smaller seller does not have. But also, I think the biggest thing where it really comes down to is optimize for profit and come down to the fact of, for every dollar in, how many dollars are you getting out on the other end when all costs are involved, and don't run out of cash. Like, really, when it comes down to business, don't run out of cash. And so don't get too wrapped up in the economy's hot and, people are buying businesses right now. If you're starting out or you're established or you're doing this for a long time, just don't run out of cash, because some of these, headwinds that we're facing eventually will start to die down. The
Yeah.
invisible hand of history tells us that.
And if I were to make a bold prediction, again, this is my prediction or this is a guess. Again, don't quote me. This is my thoughts around what you can see. I said first wave, and that's
Mhm.
billions of dollars of quote unquote investment, financial, whether it's debt, equity, whether it's
Mm.
whatever. And again, there's difference in that. If I had to tell you that there's more money on the way and it's bigger than that, a lot of people start to think about maybe I should hold on to this and at economy of scale, like you said, if I can be consistent and I can go through
Mhm.
all these things and provide. Think about this: if you start to build, this is kind of the case scenario that I think it kind of went under the radar, but I'm not really sure why. Is that there's a brand called Zesty Paws, and I'm not sure if anyone had heard about this or anything of this sort.
Mm-mm.
But Zesty Paws was an Amazon native brand, which a lot
Oh,
of
yeah,
people
yeah, yeah,
hope.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We've got some in our
This
house
was
for our dog.
I was gonna say, so Zesty Paws isn't as a brand. So I'm gonna say this. A lot of people are now building a brand and they're building something that's gonna be an economy of scale. You start on Amazon, then you develop a direct to consumer play, which is a portfolio of, and you can sell directly to consumers. So you can start to drive outside traffic to your listings. We're also available on Amazon, so on and so forth, right? You see it all the
Mhm.
time. You're a direct to consumer play. They also developed a wholesale play, so they're selling directly to the likes of Target, Walmart, PetSmart, things like that. And they have a great line of products. Like its brand's cohesive. It's great color strategy. You think about them, you think about their products. They sold their brand to a financial institution. It's a private equity firm, I should say. So P&E for $627 million. So over $500 million, and that is something for some reason or another has gone under the radar as an Amazon native brand. It has the omni-channel approach. I call it the three pillars, right? Amazon, direct to consumer, and then wholesale or direct to retail. They sold it for over $500 million, and
Mm.
I sent congratulations to their owner. He's like, it's crazy. I didn't think it was possible, but I feel like we built a brand. And those are the kinds of things where it starts to get you to think of maybe if I'm exiting a brand or there's something to it, instead of maybe $2 million now, maybe that becomes like if I can show that there's staying power with this brand and it can tie it together as a portfolio, maybe there's more at the end of the road. Like again, I asked this question on LinkedIn today. What would be the thing that pushes you over the edge to exit a business? Like, what's the one thing you're like, I can't do this anymore, or I have to leave it? Is it the money that's offered? Is it the logistics? Is it finance? So if I don't have finance to buy inventory, like is that going to push you over the top, or is it something else? And a lot of people, I'm already starting to see people seeing logistics nightmares and supplier inventory issues and just like capital in general. So it's not money's great, but it might just be economies of scale. I can't just operate it anymore. I don't have the money to invest into it to grow it anymore. So that's why they are leaving their business. So it'll be interesting. I mean, this is a case study. It's kind of skewed against towards e-commerce, but we'll see. I'm curious to see what people's thoughts are and what they might think. But I would almost venture to say, wait until I'm not gonna say real money. Wait until big money hits the market. Like I don't know. Like there's a lot of big brands at place. They're kind of watching to see how this settles. And you said last year, if I didn't know what an aggregator was, yeah, it's 1 year. That's really young in terms of the landscape. I think there's lots of good people who understand how to operate a business and they should be in business. But like you said, you'll see the news pop up of, oh, company XYZ, they raised $50 million. 6 months later, they're acquired by brand XYZ because they have a book of business that they know how to run and operate, and now they're going to take it on. So that's my goal or my thoughts. And you have people working that are not making big marketing splashes too, that I think they want to do it long approach of, we want to get, we want to build economies of scale, and we're going to do it kind of behind the scenes. And it's going to be this, how it's always been, right? People have always been buying and selling businesses and brands. What is it going to be next? And that I've heard bigger money is going to come into play, and there's going to be a lot of people that want to make your brand as part of their portfolio. It's crazy. I think it's exciting, is what to say, and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. And I know in the short term, it can be kind of challenging when there's, certain things we're up against, but always, think in a long-term model. So, you know, i- if someone's business is based on something, let's say a strategy that if the algorithm changed tomorrow, the business would be gone, that's probably a bad thing. And, that's not
Right.
just an Amazon thing. When I first started, um, get curious about the whole internet world, to pen and Canada, where these Google, a lot of the that are trying to focus on SEO on Google. So things are going to change and adapt. That doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that you just have to adapt to things. So I don't know if I'm going out, because it looks like you were starting to go out, and I know I'm on
No, yeah,
cell
you were
phone
going
Wi-Fi
out. You
right
were
now
going
because
out,
my
Kevin.
house
But
is
no,
out.
it's better now. It's better now. But you were starting to go
Okay.
out.
Yeah, so sorry about that, guys. But really, what I was getting at is, things are constantly changing, and we'll just leave it at this. As Jim Rohn, the famous philosopher, once said, "Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better." And so, my challenge to everybody watching this is, go through the speaker session. So if you've got the general admission ticket, you've got till midnight tonight. Eastern time, my time, to go through those sessions. And then you've got until, 6 weeks to start implementing stuff for the holiday season to maximize your holiday sales. So really focus on what are those key drivers that are going to move the ball forward, move the needle for you. And at the same time too, you have that short to medium term view, that really you have the long-term view that's optimizing for profit, not just for lack of a better term, sales can be a vanity metric. Everybody likes to post their screenshots and say, look at me, I
I
got
wish there was
these.
a profitability platform, to be honest with you. I wish Amazon
Right.
would show you, okay, well, this is how much you're selling. That's fantastic. And again, this came up on my podcast yesterday. Of since when did seven figures become like the benchmark of being successful? Some people just want to make
Right.
an extra $5,000 a month. That's awesome. I wish I could
Right.
make that extra $5,000 a month and not think about it. A lot of people, like, scale success is unfortunately metriced out into what lots of people like have platforms like you and I have. And I think that's unfortunate. I think like scale success is upon what the entrepreneur sees as, as long as you're profitable, and if you're not just like, again, like Mina said, you're putting more money into it so you can have a metric that says, oh, I'm a six-figure seller, but it took me 6 figures to make those 6 figures. Like, that's not an economy of scale that I want to be a part of. And I know a lot of
Right.
people are kind of that way. It's like, it's a shell game. Ultimately, if you're successful and you're like, I make an extra 10 grand a month, um, doing what I love to do, and I have a great brand, and I'm going to exit eventually one day, that's awesome. Do that. I would rather see more people be successful at that scale, and do it the right way and have opportunity to do it that way, instead of, oh, I don't want to get on Amazon because I'm only going to be successful if I sell 6 or 7 figures. Like, that's not true at all. So
Yeah.
I wish more people had that mentality. So if you're watching this and you're crushing it at 10K a month and you're profitable, like, that's your profit. Holy cow, like, you're doing way better than small businesses that have a retail store in downtown Main Street, or have all the
Yes.
flashy marketing or anything like that. Like, you're doing it. Like, you are successful. And I would like to applaud the medium-sized businesses that they're planting their flag in their ground. They're like, you know what, we're gonna live by those numbers, and that's good by us.
I'm so glad you said that, sometimes we hear the success stories, the bar, we got to be the next Zesty Paws or whatever, but really it comes down to we're running our own race here. And so,
Right.
um, a great analogy. I'll give a kudos to Carlos Alvarez, who has a meetup group in Miami. And I was at that meetup group one time, and he has like kind of like a new person hour. And Carlos is very successful, been doing it a very long time. I want to say he's like a 9-figure seller. And some woman had said, like, I've been doing this for, X amount of time. It wasn't like that long. She wasn't brand new, but she wasn't totally new. And she's like, I'm only doing like, 5,000 a month in sales or something like that. And he kind of like stopped her and was like, you need to be proud of that. Like, we talk about the, these big numbers or whatever, but, be proud of what you have and what you're building. And, like, he's like, what you're doing is phenomenal. He's like, you're going to grow and you're going to get better, but don't beat yourself up because you're not where someone else is. Because oftentimes these stories have more behind the scenes than what like they maybe had more money going into it, or they've exited another brand and they've got the skill set and the capital from the previous brand or something. So everyone who's in this game has their own story. Know your story and just optimize for profit, optimize for growth. And as last night Walker Dybel from Quiet Light pointed out, that's really, if you want to sell a business, you optimize for growth and you optimize for profit. So that's kind of the main thing. So, all right. So Ryan, this was a great conversation. I know we were only going to talk for a few minutes, but you definitely helped carry the ball here. So folks wanted to, yes. So if you wanted to, or folks wanted to, connect with you or, reach out to PingPong Payments, where would they go?
Yeah, so if you're curious about PingPong, we actually have, like, if you want to have a quick meeting with me and you're like, hey, I don't know anything about like payment solution, what is PingPong? Like, are you a table tennis company? I'm gonna say no real quickly. But if you want to actually look and see like how we can help you grow and just put more money to your bottom line, you can actually go to bit.ly.com/partner with PingPong, and you're going to find a link to schedule 15 minutes with me, and I'm gonna do my best to walk you through and say, like, this is what PingPong does. If you're working with a competitor of ours, and you can kind of quickly see like all the great things we do, we'd love to have your business. But if not, like, I'm gonna make sure that you guys are optimized for success and growth as well. So go ahead and again, bit.ly, bit.ly.com,
Did I say that right?
it's sorry, Calendly.com. I said bit.ly, that's my fault. So
Oh.
Calendly.com/partner with PingPong.
Never mind.
Yeah, it's my fault. Bit.ly is the shortened link, but yeah, it's Calendly.com/partner with PingPong. And then you can reach out to me, or if you want to follow and find me on social media, I'm on all the platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. You can message me directly, and I can also send you that same link as well. But yeah, it's free to sign up with PingPong. And then the podcast, if you want to hear more about just kind of the education that we have around I've had Kevin on our podcast before, and we've done roundtables. There's lots of great stuff on our social media feed. So if you follow us at PingPong Payments, or if you go to usa.pingpongx.com/podcast, you can find all of my episodes and video content that we put out there too. So it's a cool site. We just launched that podcast page, and it's a lot of great content.
Oh, great.
People are on this who have been in your different events, and like you said, lots of great minds in the Amazon and e-commerce field. We talk literally it's not just finance. If it's not a podcast about saving money, guys. It's about anything from PPC to logistics and sourcing to today. I'm talking with somebody from IBM about AI and the future of retail marketing. So
definitely check.
I don't know how that happened, but someone from IBM thought it was worthwhile to come on my podcast. So I'm really excited about that.
Good for you.
And tomorrow we're talking with Pinterest. So again, it kind of goes all over the place, but I'm excited to kind of, that's what I do on a day-to-day basis as well.
Got it. And the name of your podcast again for folks to check out and subscribe to on their favorite podcast app?
Yeah, it's a Crossover Commerce. It's believe it or not, there's a name for the name Crossover, and PingPong is your weakest point. It's the moment when you change over from your strong hand to your weak hand. So that is the moment of trying to figure out what that weak part is about your business, and we're trying to enhance it and make it stronger. So there's cerebralness about it all.
I didn't realize that's where the name came from. That's awesome. That's awesome. So
it took a couple of weeks to come up with something somewhat ping pong related, but that was the best that I could do. But I found a lot of meaning behind it, so that's what we went with.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, and everybody else. continue the learning, but remember, it's all about taking action, and action based on what is going to get you the best results moving forward, because it's not just about what everyone says you should do. It's what you know you must do. So anyway, thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.